What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, you know, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time. Green Camel Press is the presenting sponsor of A is for Alcoholic. Let's just get it out of the way. What is Green Camel Press? We do artwork. I don't know if you've been on the Instagram lately, but we just finished a stop motion animation. We created our own. We created our own lore, our own. It was like a fable, I suppose. So we do all kinds of cool artwork stuff. We're working on some different labels for people, and we sell T-shirts right now. And I just got some new greeting cards out to the printer, so I need to pick those up. Thank you for reminding me, John. So we do all kinds of good stuff. Go to greencamelpress.com. Pick yourself up a nice, comfy apple green T-shirt with the logo and the website on the back. It's super plush. You want to be in there comfy and nice, and it's just feels so good. And it's also great for the springtime, which I don't know how the weather is up where you're at, but we had a gorgeous day.
Today it was kind of 60. It's still garbage, though. But it was 60. Snow's melting.
I didn't realize we went out to the park, and I wore flip-flops because it was so sunny and warm, and it was mushy all in the grass, and I got mud foot, and I had to like rinse it off in the fountain, and I had my flip-flop, like one end of the flip-flop on the fountain, like pouring the water down over my foot, like just trying to engineer this sort of waterfall to kind of wash off.
It sounds like your drinking days, honestly, just like washing off in a public fountain, with mud foot, which is the medical term.
Exactly. So it was too mushy out there, man. I didn't realize. I sunk right in. But yeah, so I wanted to talk to you today about judgment. J is for judgment.
Yeah.
And wait, we don't have anything else going on, right? We're all caught up on everything. We'll be in Portland. So, yeah. We'll be in Portland next week, which is exciting. Next weekend.
Yeah.
And we're gonna record a live. I mean, I guess every podcast is technically live when it's recorded, but
we'll be doing in the same room.
Yes, we'll be in the same room in Portland. We're going to see Mike Doty. He is one of us as well, if you didn't know that already. But Mike Doty will be playing up there, and me and my girlfriend are going to go fly up and meet Jerry and his wife, and we're going to go to a hotel and maybe get some gluten-free pizza. What else? What else
do we have
do they
separate room? We have separate rooms, right?
Bunk beds.
All right.
Yes. I believe I booked separate rooms. I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I think you got a queen or a king or something like that. Something nice. I got you something nice.
A cot in the closet, in the janitor's closet. I'm down.
So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to this next weekend. I'll be sure to leave my flip-flops in California.
Just wear them, dude. You'll be in Portland, just jamming out. It'll be fucking rad.
Icy mudfoot. No thanks.
Icy mudfoot.
So I wanted to talk about judgment, and there's a lot of different places it comes from, and a lot of different places it goes. We talk about resentments a lot being the cause of drinking, and judging other people. I know in early sobriety, I was in the very beginning, I was very judgmental of other alcoholics. Like, that's not me. I don't know who you people are, but I'm not that, and it was very difficult to kind of accept myself. And I think that a lot of the judgment came from within my own mind and my own heart about myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've heard somebody say, I heard it said that, like, what other people think of you is none of your business. And it certainly doesn't help you to to get worked up in what you think other people are thinking of you. And I wanted to ask you about you work with people and you socialize with people who drink, right? I mean, there's still...
Oh yeah, all the time, yeah.
Okay. And I know that you guys are like the people you work with, they know, I mean, because you work so close quarters, you tend to know what these people are doing and you know about their lives, and there can be a lot of downtime where you talk and stuff like that. So when you got sober, that was like, I assume, came up as a topic of conversation.
Oh man, I wouldn't stop talking about it. That's all I ever talked about.
You wouldn't stop talking about it.
Oh man, I didn't shut up about my recovery for like the first 18 months, man. Maybe the first 2 years. I would shoehorn it in every conversation with tattoo clients. I'd be like, I don't know if you know this, by the way, but I've been sober for a month. You know, like, yeah.
And did you find that people cared or they didn't care?
No,
or...
I mean, some people would be like, good for you. You know, congratulations, way to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, buddy. You know, but nah, I mean, some people, I think other people in recovery were, you know, they were excited for me, or they would be like genuinely congratulatory. But just on general, I don't know, it's a weird thing to throw out there, right? You're like, I'm doing some fucking lettering on some 18-year-old Mackenzie's ribs, and I'm like, by the way, did you hear? I'm sober now. And she's like, I don't even know you. You're like a weird uncle. Like, what's your fucking deal, you know? But as far as me judging the people around me, yeah, I did it hard in the beginning. More so, actually. You know, I did it a lot in drinking, but I did it a lot in early recovery. I judged a lot of other drunks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really did, yeah.
Did you find any I mean, what was like the turning point? At what point do you say how do you go from not hating, but judging people to there, but for the grace of God go I? I mean,
yeah, it was, I don't know. It wasn't like a switch that flipped or anything. It just like, I think it just slowly happened. I just became more accepting of it because I was like, these people are going to do what they're going to do. And actually over the past couple of years, a lot of the people that were heavy drinkers, you know, other drunks and stuff, they stopped either working at the shop or they kind of, you know, mellowed out themselves or sobered up themselves, and then the ones that still do drink, I just kind of, I mean, I guess there's a little bit deep inside of that tiny bit of resentment, but it's not like this overwhelming thing anymore. It just slowly all my changes have been slow metamorphosis. I never had like an aha, oh, that's what it is. You know what I mean? It was always a slow thing where every day with exposure to it and confronting it on my own, I just slowly learned to accept it.
Kind of like dry ice, like the sublimation, like it goes from it just kind of...
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it, yeah. It just eventually stops smoking, you know, like, or fogging or whatever, vaping, doing vape clouds. I don't know what dry ice does.
Yeah. But did you find, you talked about people who were heavy drinkers, did you ever catch any sort of judgment from people about getting sober?
Yeah.
From people who still drank?
I caught judgment from people who did not drink for getting sober with coworkers. Yeah, absolutely. Because that first, like, 18 months to 2 years, I was a fucking nightmare, man. Emotionally, like, I was all over the place. Everything was very reactionary because I was trying to figure out who I was and what I'm doing and just trying to cope with everyday life without my mechanism of coping. So things that were tiny would a tiny reaction would be appropriate, or maybe even just an acknowledgement in passing to me were these giant blowouts. So, I mean, I remember one guy I worked with, I would just fought with him because we both had very conflicting ways of looking at life, so we'd argue a lot. And so I'd push back on him, and then I'd get really fucking pissed and, like, yell at him. And, I mean, multiple times he was just like, man, you fucking suck. I wish you'd start drinking again, you know? Or he'd be like, I'm going to buy you a fifth of whiskey for your fucking birthday so you stop bitching so much, you know? And that would, like, hurt my feelings really bad. But then, in hindsight now, in reflection, I realized, like, yeah, I fucking sucked. I was super hard to be around. Like, yeah, it wasn't like, it was not like fucking rainbows and My Little Ponies and shit. So I caught a lot of judgment from them, but I think it was more reactionary on their part. Now there were people who would do the thing where they say, "Hey, if you ever start drinking again, hit me up. I'll get loaded with you." And back then I'd be like, "Thanks, cool," you know. But in my mind, I'm like, "Man, you don't want to see that. We're not gonna have fun. Like, I'm gonna be turning to this shit because I've either convinced myself that it's gonna work." And I'm going to go right back to where I was before, or I'm going to be super fucking bummed and trying to cope with something that I couldn't handle, you know? Like, it's going to be a bummer. We're not going to be sitting there shotgun and beers laughing. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, there were a couple of people when I first started getting sober, when I first got sober early on, and somebody was like, so it just feels like, you know, you went dark on me or something like that, I think was the phrase. And I said, no, man, I mean, I kind of felt like it was the other way around, but you know, you can kind of understand that sort of that feeling of like, I haven't seen you in forever. And, you know, we used to drink a lot and then I see you and now we can't go get a drink together. Like, you know, I feel like, I think it felt like betrayal to that person in a way.
Oh, like, yeah, I bet it did. Yeah. Especially if the whole focus of your friendship or relationship or whatever was the foundation of that was built on getting loaded together, getting drunk together. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think the whole focus, but yeah, there was definitely like, it was all the time. That's where we met. That's what we did. Right. That's how we interacted. It was, you know, it was a part of every single social thing that we did. And, you know, like really, so just never, ever again, like just completely unconvinced.
Never?
And you know, there's always that sort of little snide say, you know, we always talk about as alcoholics, like, well, I don't know. I mean, just for today, maybe tomorrow's the day, you know? But it was like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think ever again. I don't have any, and so it's kind of tough to, you know, I think you find who your friends are and who they aren't. I don't think like when I was still drinking for a year after you got sober. I don't imagine I don't know how you felt about me when I'd call you up at 2 a.m. drunk, other than
I'm
annoyed.
worried about you more than anything else. I was just worried. Yeah, but I figured to be honest with you, I was like, John's going to do what John does, but also I was pretty selfish. Like, I was like, I got to take care of myself right now, and John will figure out his shit on his own. It's not my job to fix John.
No.
I can worry about him and be concerned, but, like, I need to worry about my ass, because... you know, I'm basically doing I'm doing the opposite of what I'm supposed to be doing as an alcoholic. Like, I'm supposed to be drinking. That's what my body and brain want me to do all the time. And in the early part of that, I was like, I need to focus on not doing exactly what my brain is telling me to do all the time. So you'd call me up and be like, woohoo, but usually you were kind of sad. It would start with woohoo and then turn into sad shit, you know. And I still smoked cigarettes back then, so I'd sit in the garage and smoke and like talk to you. And you're like, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, well, you do what you got to do. I mean, your life might get better if you do, but if you don't, like, you can still call me. Just know that I'm going to hang up on you eventually.
Yeah.
Because you go in the loop. But we all went in the loop. I went in the loop, you know? So I don't know, man. It was actually, you drinking while I was sober was pretty helpful.
Really?
And not in a cautionary tale kind of way, but in a reminder kind of way of like, it taught me some tolerance, because I was never really like upset or pissed off at you about it. I was just like, I had to learn how to be empathetic instead of being self-centered. So I was like, I've been where he's at. Like, I know that cycle. I know it. Like, I know that circle so well that he's going through some shit right now, you know?
Yeah.
And here we are doing a podcast.
I can't, I mean, I'm still, I remember those days, and I was sitting in the same exact room and just feeling really sorry for myself, and really like so wanting to really, you know, that idea of wanting to find a way out and not knowing how to find a way out.
Right.
I wanted to read you something too, but it was so difficult. And so I would call you up, and I think that most of what I was saying was like, oh man, it sounds so good, or maybe I should try something. Maybe I should. Oh, maybe one day, or that kind of thing. And I wanted to read something. This is a message on Facebook that I went back and forth with your father.
Oh, my old man, huh? Yeah.
Excuse me. And so this is like, what is this, in 2011? So this is long before. God, I asked him in 2011. Thinking about a meeting this week. I think I wouldn't be alone if I had thought about it a long ago. I'm sure you have enough hanging on your head, but wouldn't mind a thought. It's fine to tell your son, my best friend. I contacted you. Just don't want anyone to care about the weirdness. I hope there's none. And just thanks for my request. And he goes on to, give me some advice. He says, I hope you're okay. Just know there's nothing weird about your request. You can write or call. He was very open. If you have any questions, happy to answer. And so I guess my thing is like, there was all this judgment in my own head, about myself. Like you get so stuck in there. And this is great. I'm doing okay. I'm reading this message I sent to your dad. Yeah. I have just been thinking about being a quote unquote functioning drunk is not enough. I imagine the stories are much worse than anything I have been through. You always say to yourself, I'll stop when it stops being fun. But when you do, it does. I can't even read it. It's so sloppy. And you don't. It just brings up questions about what you are doing to make yourself happy besides getting a hangover is a pathetic daily achievement. I guess I just want to start being the person everyone thinks that I am, and that is the hardest part. I might give you a call tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening. Now, two things about that. One, this idea of I want to be the person everybody thinks I am.
Yeah.
So what everybody thinks I am, they probably think I'm two different people, right? Because I'm one person when I'm sober, and they're like, oh, John's a really nice guy, or he's a really sweet guy, he's a really smart guy, and he's got a lot of potential. But God, when he fucking drinks, he turns into this obnoxious asshole, who's fun for like a little while. Right. And so this idea of what everybody thinks I am, and so I have this, I'm creating this notion of who I want to be through other people's eyes. And it's just fucking so many layers of who am I and what am I trying to do? And it's just like this, I don't know. It's a lot of layers of trying to break down who I want to be, who I think people think I am, and who cares what people think I am. I mean, I care what, my girlfriend thinks I am, or I care what my mom thinks I am. I care what my friends, people I love, I care what they think about me. But that's not judgment. But I'm so constantly judging myself, and I think that even before we start drinking, we're almost taught to judge ourselves through. Right. What's the one thing we always hear about alcoholics? They don't fit in. I didn't feel like I fit in.
Very common. Right? Very common. That I hear that a lot. Yeah.
So whether you got, I don't know, you were picked on as a kid, and so
hell yeah, I made a sport out of it. They should have gave me a varsity jacket.
So, you get picked on as a kid, you're having all these tough times, and you find something that makes you feel good. You find this thing that makes you feel good. But all those bad feelings, they only go away temporarily, right? This is just it's a momentary reprieve. And then next thing you know, now you not only hate yourself, but you feel like shit. And it's all your fault. So you hate yourself even more. Yeah.
It's like taking an aspirin for an infection. The pain of the infection goes away, but the shit still festers, like you're just ignoring it. Like you're like, this will temporarily alleviate a symptom and not fix the cause,
So when do you begin to start, trying to fix the self-loathing and the self-judgment, which I think is probably the most damaging thing?
Right. Well, sober up first.
Yes.
And then from there,
there's nothing else.
Teach yourself how to cope, and then definitely therapy's helpful.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's anything you can do. Like you said, you can't do anything for anybody else unless, like, you couldn't do anything for me until I was ready to quit drinking. Like, I can help you. Well, the only thing you have to do is you got to quit drinking.
I distinctly remember you asking me, am I an alcoholic? Am I an alcoholic? I remember you asking me this multiple times. One night, it was like you were really drunk one night, and you're like, am I an alcoholic? And I was like, John, that's not for me to answer. That's for you to answer. And you're like, I'm sick of this fucking, like 12-step fucking Jedi shit. You're trying to pull a Jedi mind trick on me. And I'm like, no, dude. You know what? Like, in my brain, I'm like, yeah, you're a fucking alcoholic. You're my best friend. Of course you're an alcoholic. I love other alcoholics, but it's not for me to, like, it's not like putting a sorting hat on you and you're house fucking drunkard. You know what I mean? Like you were just you needed to, because I can tell you that, but then all that does is really honestly cause a resentment, because now you're feeling judged. There's a judgment there. You're like, oh, so I asked you, but now you're gonna fucking give me the answer that I want to hear and don't want to hear. You know, it was precarious. And I wanted to bring something else up about judgment, which is funny that in that message, that DM you sent to my dad, was you said, I'm sure you've heard a lot worse than what's going on with me. And we, as in early sobriety, I think some people really feel like, well, I must not have a problem. My problem's not bad enough because I didn't run somebody over or end up in jail or end up beating someone. Or do you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like a qualifier. Like, once I get to this point, then I can fucking get my shit together, or then I can start being happy. But until that point, until it gets horrible, I haven't met all the criteria for becoming a rock bottom alcoholic, you know. And that's a judgment in of itself.
Yeah, there's this do you ever listen to the Annie Grace podcast? You turned me on
every
to that.
once in a while. Yeah.
So there's this, if anybody's listening that is interested in some other stuff, Annie Grace is she's an author among other things, but she's got a podcast called This Naked Mind.
Yeah, it's good.
And I just listened to this recent episode, and they're great because they're like 10 or 15 minutes long, and
they're real short. Yeah.
And she's very good, concise, and has a lot of good info. But the one was talking about daily drinking versus binge drinking, and how a daily drinker will judge a binge drinker. Yeah. And the binge drinker will say, "Well, I don't drink every day. I only drink 17 drinks on the weekends."
Right.
And then the daily drinker says, "Well, sure, I drink every day, but I don't overdo it." Now that may be the case, but when you're drinking, at some point you lose, and this is I'm using the word differently, but you lose judgment of what you think is too much and how your behavior changes, and we just don't we don't always get to keep control of those things. And so we talk about hitting a rock bottom and then comparing ourselves. There's so many different kinds of alcoholics. At least yes. I've met multiple different kinds of alcoholics. You listen to somebody who didn't have a problem most of their life, and then something happened, and now they're like 60 years old, and they didn't even start drinking heavily until they were in their 50s or something like that. And so like, it's so different, and that's why I always too, it's very, very unique to each and every person.
Well, because it's a mental illness, right? So every mental illness has a symptom and a signifier or a qualifier of what it is, but it's all a spectrum. Everybody's a little different in their mental illness, We all have, like, you line up 10 people with, like, I guess Tourette's. I don't know if that's neurological or mental, but I'll use that as an example. You line up 10 people with Tourette's, all their tics are different. They may be similar in some ways, but they're all very different because it's all individualized, Yeah. So we're all different and the same.
Well, but regardless of what the differences are, the only way that I know to how to help somebody is if they decide to quit drinking. I can't stop them. I can't make them. I can't fix them. I can't do anything for them until that's the one thing that they have to do before I'm able to help anybody.
Exactly.
And I think that's fairly universal.
Yes.
Now there are obviously, when people are in pain, in medical need, like I've heard of, guys taking guys to meetings and like putting beer in their system because they're so addicted to alcohol.
Yeah, dude, I've heard about that shit too. Yeah.
I've never experienced it, but it's like you need to have
I've heard stories from my dad though.
You need to have a couple of beers. Get this guy a couple of beers so we can get him through a meeting so that he doesn't fucking die.
So my dad is like old school 12-step, right? Like his the dude who like, helped him out is old school 12-step, and they would go on their calls and pick people up and drive them to rehab. And my dad tells this great story about him and the dude who sponsors him or whatever, driving a guy to rehab the first time my dad went with him, and his sponsors asked the guy in the back, "What do you drink, man?" And the guy says, "Oh, I drink tequila." And so he goes, "Okay, cool." And they stop at the Safeway, and he buys him a pint of tequila and gives it to the guy in the back. And the guy drinks it, and they drive him to rehab, and they drop him off. And on the way back, my dad's like, "Why'd you do that? Like, we're not supposed to. We're fucking 12-steppers. Like, we shouldn't be doing that, you know." And the guy told, his sponsor looked at him and said, "Hey, man, have you ever seen a guy try to get out of a car at 60 miles an hour? Because that's what they'll fucking do." You know what I mean? Because he's had it happen. Like, a dude open up a car on the highway because the finality of it, also on top of the physical aspect of withdrawal, and then you add finality. This is it. I've made the promise, and I am done. Like, I have to throw my security blanket in the ocean. Fuck, like, they fucking jet, So if you give them a little bit of something to, like, ease them into it, which I'm not going to suggest doing. It's just a story I heard, in regards to what we're talking about. Sometimes you got to do that. And people who go into, they fill them full of fucking tranquilizers. Like when you go into the hospital and you're DTing and withdrawing and you're having seizures and shit, like they'll give you fucking Xanax or barbiturates, to keep you from dying. Yeah, literally. That's crazy balls, man. See, and that's not my bottom, but that could be. I have the potential for that. Like, I have all the potential for that. You know what I mean? But I it's so funny. Like you say, we determine. You have to determine internally, like when you're done suffering. Really,
Yeah. And that also doesn't mean that there isn't still work to be done. I know that it's like, when I think about myself today and I think about myself 3+ years ago, like, there was still the first like 2 years were this haul, it felt like, in doing these things. And I know that I still have other stuff that I need to work on and things I need to do and like things I need to write down and people I need to talk to. Yeah. And so it's like, but it's it's like, okay, so now I've reached this level. So if it's like, basically if I hit my bottom and wherever that was, maybe it's not as deep as some other people's. And sometimes people who go real deep are able to spring right back up, even higher. And I think that there's a certain level of like reaction to that. Like when I listen to people who have like hit some serious rock bottoms with, prison time or, medical issues or whatever, who've gotten very, very sick and almost killed themselves. They tend to, and not always, but I've heard stories where people come right back around quicker than people who are kind of like, well, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then I just stopped and then I was miserable and I'm still kind of miserable. And because it wasn't, when you're not personally invested, I think it's a lot harder to change. Or when you feel like, yeah, this is fine for now.
Yeah.
So trying to find that space of like, okay, I'm not by any means I'm not fixed, right? So, but I still have plenty of stuff that I need to work on. But my bottom was my bottom, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter who else did what, right?
Right. And I'm at a point where I don't judge you for your bottom.
No,
I really don't. Like, that's the one thing. I don't look around a room and go, "Oh, that guy didn't fall hard enough." And I don't think many of us do, if any of us, because we're just glad you're around. Even if it's not in a room. Like, I just meet another person who is, say, getting recovered or getting sober or dealing with their recovery without using a program. I don't judge them anymore. No. I don't know if I judged them before, though, either. I just felt more concerned, like, whoa, wait, you're doing it differently than I am? I hope it works. Like, it was more concern, like, I don't know. I felt like I needed a group because the pitfalls I felt like were so numerous that if I could stay within the middle of a herd for a little while, I could navigate them, And sometimes I get way out on the fringes and it'll get a little scary. Like, not as much as it used to, and I get back in the herd again, but I used to look at people who are like, yeah, I've been sober for 10 years and I don't do any of that 12-step shit. And I would like, even then I would be like, I worry about you, internally. I never tell anybody this out loud. And these are all like my deep secret internal thoughts, but I have to, that's judgment in itself. I need to realize that, like you said, we're all different. We all hit our different bottoms. We all have our different cycles and, our different ways of doing it,
One thing
in common.
We do have one thing in common.
That fire inside us that needs to be put out with liquor.
And when we don't have liquor, we got to find other ways to put it out. And there's also, like when we talk, I want to two things. I want to.
Okay.
I don't know if I brought up the very first time I ever went to a 12-step meeting.
You've told me about it.
Have
but
I
you've
told
never
you? I
brought
don't
it
know
up.
if I've told this. So this wasn't even near the end. This was still like a year plus away from me getting sober. But I would call the 800 numbers. And I would talk to people. I would just talk to strangers.
Did that. Yeah.
And I would be drunk. And I would have these conversations. And just because I wanted to talk to somebody and I didn't know like what to do. And I obviously somewhere inside of me, I wanted to fix this problem.
You're reaching out.
Right. I certainly didn't have to. I could have, done other things. And I thought about other things to make the suffering stop. But so I remember one morning I'd been up drinking. I'd been up by myself drinking until like dawn. So I find a meeting that's down the road, not too well. It's far enough that I would need to drive, but obviously I can't drive. I'm too drunk, and it's 8:00 in the morning, and I've been drinking everything. So I call a cab, and I say, "Take me to this place," and I give the cabbie money, and I say, "Just wait here for 1 hour."
Yeah.
And I don't really remember the meeting except for sitting in there, hating everyone in there, thinking, what the fuck are you people doing? I don't belong here. And I didn't belong there in that state of mind. I wasn't ready, obviously.
Right.
But I had huge amounts of judgment for the people, for the place, for everything. And most of that should have been reserved for myself. I mean, most of it was. And that's all it is. When we're out there judging other people, we're just really seeing the flaws. Well, when I'm judging other people, I see the flaws that I don't like in myself.
Yes.
And
the mirror, the old
the mirror.
Yeah.
And all they are often the flaws that I either don't see, so it's in my blind spot, or I am choosing to live with rather than change.
Yeah.
So that was a hell of a morning. So I sat there through the whole meeting, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember because I was extraordinarily inebriated.
And you had a cab waiting out front.
And I had a cab waiting because I was like, I will not be...
This guy's like, I'm eating at Carl's Jr. today. I'm going to the good fast food restaurant.
And so it was intense, man. And that was my first one. And I don't know. I didn't get anything out of it, but it was like, except a lot of resentment and judgment.
Right. Yeah.
And it took me a while, and I still had those similar feelings when I started to go back, and I actually was taking sobriety seriously, but nowhere near the hate that I felt, because I had felt finally broken. I had felt like I had to fix something that, and I think also knowing that you had done it as well was kind of like, okay. So, I mean, if my drunk ass friend Jerry can do it, I can certainly do it. Which in and of itself implies some sort of judgment that you're of weaker character than I am, right?
Right.
But you're the one who got sober first, so I'm sitting here judging you about what you have done, and if he can do it, I can do it.
But that was a useful judgment, though.
Yes, it was.
Helpful judgment. Yes. Yeah.
So, but the other thing I wanted to talk about in using the word judgment is in more of like the stigma that comes with it of being an alcoholic. Now, it's a little bit more, I mean, you can go on Instagram and recovery, long-term recovery from alcohol.
I feel like it's loosened up quite a bit, actually.
It's loosened up so much. And I think people are a lot happier, a lot more excited. I think that, but looking at those things, like if I had seen, Instagram recovery 4 years ago, I would have been like, who are these fucking assholes? And
how is this funny? I might have laughed at some of it, actually. Mm-hmm. Some of those memes are funny. Yeah.
Well, some of the memes are, but even the people who are trying to get excited and to share things with people and talk about it. And it's like, I wouldn't trust any of them. I guess that's the best way to put it.
I think they were full of shit.
Full of shit, honestly. Untrustworthy, trying to sell me something.
Which is all those emotions you had sitting in that room.
Exactly.
You're like, these people are full of shit. They're all fucking brainwashed cult people, and I don't trust them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I feel, for me, that when I came... and now that I look at it, I'm like, I'm so glad, man. And like, I don't care if somebody's trying to sell some recovery t-shirts or doing whatever they're doing, like, good for them. Like, awesome. Yeah. Keep it up. Keep doing it. I'm super happy. I love your memes. Give me some inspirational quotes. Put a little
Right.
backdrop of a sunset, man. I think it's awesome. Like, oh, wow, I didn't think about that today. Thanks for making me think about that. So I'm all
Right.
for it. One of the things I think is important for the person who's still, suffering, for the person who's still drinking, for the person who wants to quit. When I think about that person that I was, one of the programs stresses anonymity a lot, and you and I are sitting here on a podcast
Yeah.
talking
I
about
know,
a bunch
right?
of stuff,
Blowing the fucking spot up. Yeah.
blowing the spot up. But I think I think it's still important, because I feel like a lot of that just comes from within us. It does for me. I was ashamed of myself, so I didn't want to talk about it with anybody. I didn't want my boss to know, or I didn't want the world to know, and I didn't want to share it. And which is funny, because I was so open about my drinking.
Yes. Yeah, you were. Which is, yeah. Therein lies the fucking contradiction.
But
yeah.
the moment I'm going to try and take some steps to control my life, or to at least to better myself, I'm now what? I'm ashamed. So it is that thing. So I think that, like, that level of, anonymity is pretty important in those beginning times. Nowadays, I hear all kinds of people like, yep, everybody knew I was an alcoholic except me,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so fucking
yeah.
true. Like, you didn't, long before, I mean, I'm sure that we all used to go wear it as a badge of courage and honor. And
Well, yeah, I'd be like, I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics go to meetings, or I'm not a quitter, or whatever, Oh, there's a bunch of quitters in that room. I never gave up, all those jokes. Anonymity to me wasn't important in the beginning. I mean, as far as people around
Maybe
me,
not, yeah.
I knew the rules. I knew I don't say these people's names. If I see them out in the wild, I don't fucking blow their spot up. But for me personally, I'd wear it on a t-shirt if I wouldn't get in trouble for it. You know what I mean? I'd be like, I'm in fucking this group and I do this, and yeah, because I was so fucking proud of myself. And I was like you, I was an out loud drunk. But the difference was, in my place of employment, I didn't have to keep it a secret, because I usually drank with my boss. You know what I mean? Or I would drink all the time. The people around me knew what I was made of. The people who were married to me knew. The person who was married to me, the people who are related to me, they all know what I'm made of. They know, they've been there. They've all, I think back on a lot of the shit I did drunk, like a lot of the shit I did drunk around them, and there's no secret, for me. I was like, I'm a fucking dumpster fire. Check me out. And now I'm like, put the fire out. I'm going to let everybody know,
Yeah.
So for me it wasn't, but I respect and try to constantly regard the importance of it for other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just know that, because I was unsure, and I think that for me it was like, well, if this doesn't fucking work, I don't want to be out there telling people that I'm doing something, and then I find out that I can't fucking do it and I failed.
Right.
And then I'm an actual piece of shit anyway, and
Right.
all this kind of stuff. And that's not true either.
Yeah.
Even if I had relapsed after 3 weeks, that's completely understandable to me now. I'd be like,
I
yeah,
said,
of course.
You're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You're doing what I mean, I heard somebody say that today and it just rung like a bell. I was like, right. We're all sitting here doing the opposite of what our body is telling us to do. And because even after a while, physically your body's not saying it, but your brain is like, hey, buddy, what's up? Like looking pretty lonely there, like. So that, I keep mentioning that, but it just resonated with me, So
Yeah.
if I relapse, I had plans. I planned it, dude. They left, like my wife and daughter left, and I was here alone in Eugene, and we had this new house we were renting, and there was no furniture here, and I had planned. I was like, dude, Friday night, I'm getting out of work. I had been sober like maybe 6 months. I was not even July. I was like 4 months sober. I was like, they're gone. I'm going to go hit that liquor store on 29th and Willamette right down the block. I'm going to walk up to the house, and I'm just going to get fucking housed all by myself in that house, and no one will ever know. No one will ever know. And I didn't do it. I didn't go through. I was like, you know what? Maybe tomorrow. And then I'd wake up the next day and be like, today's the day. And then by the end of the day, I'd be like, nah, you know what? Tomorrow, and then I'd go and fall asleep at the place I was staying at that period of time. But I mean, I had plans.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It was like, we're going to fucking do this. But can you imagine me alone in this house, all by myself with a bottle of Evan Williams, listening to like my iPhone with no speaker or nothing, just crying.
It's
being
not funny. I'm sorry. Well, I mean,
No, it is.
but I can't.
It's funny.
I
as
can
fuck,
imagine
actually.
it. Yes,
it's hilarious because at some point I would have called Megan and been like, "I fucking did it again," like after walking up to some bar down the block and man, what a mess. That how ridiculous. The thought of that now is fucking ridiculous to me.
Saturday
I'm like, you fucking
nights
dinged.
and you're
Dude.
all hanging alone.
Sad because it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday.
I'm
Yeah, that
singing
would
Captain
be me.
Jack, but yeah,
I
just-
know it'd be either one. Like, so it's what it's. I don't know. We shouldn't judge ourselves for what we are, and if we fall down, just dust your ass off and get back up again. It's all right. You don't learn how to ride a horse the first time you get on it, and if you do, congratulations, you're awesome. But
Yeah, I
happens.
find myself in even in judgment about things, and again, it's most of it is all the judgment that I put on myself. I impose upon myself when
absolutely.
when I don't do enough in the day, or if I don't get up early enough and I don't do certain things, and I'm always like, and then I sit there and lament the fact that it's 2:00 in the afternoon, John. You just wasted the whole morning, and what do you have to show for it? And who the fuck do you think you're gonna be if you don't get your shit together, John? And it's like, it's okay. Well, it's 2:00, so you still got time, right? Okay, so maybe let's see what you can do with the afternoon. Like and so that's just like last week. That's I still have those feelings of like
yes.
when maybe I was kind of had a lazier day than I had anticipated, or there were things on the list that I just didn't want to do because I had the day off and for whatever reason. So it's just a lot of that beating myself up for just being a human being and for being a human being who has this unfortunate affliction, who still deals with other issues, that has been dealing with other issues. From being a kid, childhood trauma, that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't go away overnight. It doesn't go away over, 3 years of sobriety. So it's, I think one of the other, what is the saying? Easy does it.
Easy does it.
The most important thing is like, don't drink today, and everything else is going to be fine. It's been fine up to this point. I always tell myself, like, I haven't let myself fail thus far, not so badly that I couldn't come back from it. So with all of this under my belt, sobriety and understanding of myself and working on myself and wanting to be better, like, what makes me think that because I spent the morning in bed on Instagram, that it's going to be, that it should ruin the entire day, and that's all that I'm worth.
Well, fuck that. Must scrap this. Just to scrap this fucking day.
Right.
I had a horrible Saturday, and I tried to like salvage it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the middle part, the beginning and end part of my Saturday were just shit.
What happened?
But then, I was like leaving the house, and I had to be at work early at 11 because I needed to help the owner interview somebody for a volunteer position, and I got out of the shower and I told my wife at like 10:15, I was like, will you braid my hair? Where you put these two, because she's been braiding my hair and it looks cool, man. I'm hitting my mid-40s. I got to do something, So it takes her for fucking ever, and she just does one half in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, yo, dude, that's half done and I need to be out at the door right now. So she rushed and did the other half. And I go into the bathroom to look at it to smooth it all out, and it's all fucked up because she tried to do something new and different and put him. I just got a haircut and she put him up higher, and I just stressed because I was like, dude, I got to take all this shit out now. But I was trying to be grateful to her because I was like, look, you took time out of your studying to hook me up, and I appreciate that. You just did a bad job. But I didn't tell her she did a bad job. I just thought that. But I was being appreciative, but pissed off too, because I was like, fuck, I'm late. I'm super fucking late. I'm going to be late. I had plans. I wanted to control this situation. It has gone out of my control now, and I want to be upset about it. So I flew off to work. And I made it there barely on time. And then at the end of the night, and then the battery on my fucking smart key died on my fob.
Oh no.
So I couldn't get into the car. But then I called my wife. I'm like, the battery's dead. I can't get in the car. And she's like, oh no, there's a mechanical key. If you push a button, a key slides out of the fob. So I'm like, bam, got it. Get in the car, unlock the car, get in the car. It won't turn over. This light is turning on in the car, telling me there's a security issue. Turns out the battery died. So even though you have the key, the auxiliary key, it still needs a little bit of juice in the pardon me, in the that's nice. In the battery for it to turn over, so, which is stupid. It's totally unreasonable. It's like, why wouldn't a fucking auxiliary key work? You know what I mean? It's a mechanical key.
Right.
Anyway, she had to send over her friend's boyfriend to come change the battery out for me, and I'm sitting in the parking garage after working all day. So it was just like garbage. It bookended with garbage, but during the day at work was fine. I had a great day. I fucked around with my colleagues. We'd laugh, we'd joke. And then after I got the car back and had my little second meltdown in the car because the car wouldn't start and I was stuck in this sketchy-ass parking garage in downtown Eugene. As soon as I got home, I let the dog out, ate dinner, and then went to go get my wife and hang out with her and my daughter because they were over at a friend's house, and had a great time hanging out with people, being social, because I'm never social. So I'm like, I'm going to go over and be social, you know? So I don't know, man. It's just the ability to try to salvage something out of shit. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, but I made a shit. Because I could have just been like, yeah, I'm going to be fucking late. I was trying to look fly, and it didn't work, so.
You know, or you could have not looked quite as fly.
That's too hard for me, dude. I got to look fly all the time, though.
Or perhaps next time you could give your wife a few more minutes in the morning.
I need to start earlier. It was and I knew that on the
like,
drive there. I was pissed, but I was like, "This is my mistake," because I hit her up like with a short window of time, and she needs more time than that. You know, I should. Because
she's going to do a good job.
Me a favor.
No, because she wants you to look fly too.
Yeah, exactly. And she was trying a new thing.
Yeah.
So now I just ended up slicking it back. I walked around all day looking like Paul Mitchell. You know, the hairdresser, like, yeah, it's got this Paul Mitchell going on right now. So
he kind of does look like Paul Mitchell, guys. I could see it. Like, you could do
handsomer though, with less of the booze nose. I don't know if Paul Mitchell's a drinker, but he got a nose on him though. He's got.
Yeah, I feel like his hair is a little more brown, but like still salt and pepper, slick back.
Salt and pepper, yeah, salt and pepper's here.
You could, if you look up Paul Mitchell, go YouTube some Paul Mitchell commercials.
Yeah,
but
you'll see me, less tattoos.
You know, one thing too, like, so judgment comes from all these different places, internally, externally. Right. One thing I have found to be true is that now 3+ years, like 3.5 years sober,
man,
the turnaround time is quicker. So like when I feel a judgment coming towards somebody, yeah, it dissipates quicker. It's that sort of that like, instead of I don't know, it just the turnaround time is quicker. Or when I start to get angry at myself about something, when I'm like, God, John, you piece of shit, you can't get the what is, and I go, hold on, I don't know who that is talking. We're gonna stop that, and we're gonna reassess the situation, because 99% of the time it's really not that bad. Right. It's
the pause. You're getting that pause. That's what I hear about all the time. You get, like, somebody was saying, you get a second of pause before you react for every year sober. You, like, apparently earn this. I don't know. This is not a medical fact. This is just wives' tales spread around the recovery community that I've heard a lot. It's like, well, yeah, every year you're sober, you get a little more time. Like, you get another second of time to, like, assess what's going on instead of reacting immediately and judging. You know, like. Maybe that's what you're doing. And not the post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I'm talking about PAUSE, not PAWS. That's a bitch, because never heard of post-acute withdrawal syndrome?
No, tell me.
Fuck, I had that, man, even 2 years into it. Just basically, it's like fancy talk for being a fucking pain in the ass in later sobriety. Like, after 18 months, 24 months, like, even after 2 years, I was still having, like, emotional fallout from not drinking and shit, and, like, lots of anxiety, lots of weirdness, you know.
I had that, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It had a name. I looked everything up, man. The internet was my friend. Did you ever do those alcoholic tests when you were drinking?
But we should.
Like the 10 questions, am I an alcoholic? And then I would answer, and I'd only answer no to one, and I'd be like, well, I answered no to one, so I'm not that bad. Yeah, all 9 the other ones. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd probably have a couple more questions I have to add. Be like, so what about this?
I'll send you a link to the 10 questions. It's on the website, on the AA, which it's on their website. I'm just saying that as a resource. It's tests you take. I'm not telling anybody to go there, nor do I endorse it in press, radio, or film. I don't do that shit.
But yeah, man, it's definitely, that's true, because I remember that you said 18 months into it, and I was definitely like, I felt like a sore. I just felt kind of swollen and tender. I
Yes.
felt like I had a splinter in me, you know, and it kind of is like swollen up around this splinter, and I couldn't get the splinter out, and then fucking the pus is coming around the splinter, and so I remember that for sure. That was like, and there was a whole period where I was like, I was done with it. I was like, I don't need anybody or anything else. I just need to take a fucking break and not have to get up in the morning and do the stuff. And I became hugely resentful to the people and the things that had helped me for a year and a half.
Yeah.
So that's a trip. Yeah. It was about that time
it
too.
says here it's after the physical withdrawal, but it can last for up to 2 years, and it's the psychological withdrawal. So it says the symptoms are mood swings, anxiety, irritability, tiredness, variable energy, low enthusiasm, variable concentration, and disturbed sleep, which all of them dinged off for me.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
holy shit.
And that's from the psychological, that's healing psychologically. You know, from the blast went off, you're fixed, but you still got all that shit going on in your brain that's just trying to cope. It's full of bats. Your brain is full of bats.
You got to dust out the belfry.
Yeah.
What is a belfry? Okay. Is that like the bell tower?
It's where the bell lives, yeah, with his family.
The bell?
Jingle bells.
But yeah, man, that's the one thing that I've found is just that reaction time is gotten quicker.
I think that's
and
just
I really
from
appreciate that
mindfulness and learning to be in the moment. I think that's what you're. I mean, I don't know. This is just in my observations of knowing you as a friend over the years. I've noticed that you have become a lot more mindful, and you do live in the moment a little more. And there's a lot less worry about what is and what was, and a lot more like, well, I'm here right now in the middle of past and future, so fuck it, you know.
Yeah.
Really, I feel that way sometimes, but then, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't. But hey, that's life. Nobody's perfect, right?
I'm still can be a judgmental motherfucker. Like when he gets crowded in the Whole Foods, man. Like
yeah, you should see me in a car trying to drive to work. I'm like, for real? Like, you make babies? What the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
traffic is.
I avoid every minivan on the road. Mm-hmm. That's a judgment I need to fix. I'm scared of minivans because usually the people are driving wild as fuck because they're trying to hit a kid in the back seat or put on the Frozen soundtrack. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
No
I try to take a deep
minivan.
breath. I mean, when I'm having those moments, man, I take a deep breath and I try to realize that probably everybody else is just trying to get through this shit the same as I am.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't think any that's
a great way of looking at it, dude.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah.
It's because there's nobody in the grocery store, there's nobody on the fucking road that knows who I am. These people don't know who I am. They're they're absolutely not even, they're disinterested in my motivations, in my interests, in what I have to tackle during the day. They have their whole entire other lives.
They got their own shit going on, yeah.
Dude,
they
got their own problems.
They gotta get that halo top too, man.
They gotta get the halo top. Maybe they didn't get their hair braided right. You know, who knows what went wrong with their day. And so
I love that. That's my set off on Saturdays. I didn't get my hair braided right. That's like not a fucking problem. That's a non-problem.
Well, and it's good that you see that.
I do see it, and I feel ridiculous even. Not even because I'm getting my hair braided, because whatever. My hair's growing long. I think it looks cool. It's more that I'm like, this stupid thing didn't happen correctly, and in the grand scheme of things, like, man, I'm glad that was my worst problem that Saturday. I'm like so fucking grateful, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I thought for sure we were going to talk about the movie Judgment Night from 1993 with Emilio Estevez and Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy Piven was in that?
Yeah, he's in it because I looked up Judgment Night just for that joke on my phone. You never gave me a chance to get to it. Who else? Oh, Cuba Gooding Jr.
That was great. I had the soundtrack.
Stephen Dorff.
Oh boy,
who's fucking killing it on True Detective. I mean, I know this isn't that kind of show, but killing it on True Detective.
Is that a new one? New season?
Oh yeah, he's great, man. Yeah, him and Mahershala Ali, I think is his name. Yeah, that dude used to be a rapper in the 90s. I had one of his albums. He was Brother Ali.
Not the Brother Ali, not the one I'm thinking of.
No, is it Brother Ali? Now I gotta look it up, dude.
But yeah,
this podcast is turning into
some strange reviews. But yeah,
I know. Anyway, I thought we were gonna talk about Judgment Night. No, that's a different Brother Ali. You're right. Mahershala. Anyway, we don't got to worry about it.
We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, maybe we will. Maybe I'll forget entirely. I don't know. We'll be in Arizona.
What about your shirt, Jerry? What about the shirt that
nobody
you found?
can see this shirt. It's a foil-lined Prince Ali. That's what his name was. Anyway, it's a foil-printed Yo MTV Rap shirt that my friend of mine bought me in 2008 that I just found in a pile of clothes in my wife's office. And so I wore it for this podcast. It's got a chain. I'm gonna wear it, like you said, I'm wearing it to the blazer.
It's bright gold. It's a giant, what looks like a giant watch. With gold going up behind, not like up around the neck area, like something that Flavor Flav would wear.
I should have Megan take a picture of me. I'll put it on my Instagram.
And then it says Yo MTV Raps on it. And I got to tell you, I mean, if you're wearing that, this is not a person who's worried about judgment at all.
Not at all. I'm gonna take this is my finest shirt. I'm like, yo, baby, you wanna go to Red Lobster tonight and get some cheese biscuits? 'Cause we gonna fuck. Mm-hmm. No, I wouldn't say that at all.
No,
no. Not, but when I wear this shirt, I feel like saying it though. So I think the shirt's like imbued me with some powers.
Well, I think if you're out there, if you're listening, be yourself, do your thing.
Yeah.
Don't spread judgment.
Take
it easy on yourself.
Take it easy on yourself first and foremost. Take it easy on yourself, and you'll find that it'll be easier to take it easy on others.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.